2011's Captain America: The First Avenger was directed by Johnston and marks the first time that Chris Evans picked up that shield and became Captain America. With a lot of these reviews of Phase 1 movies that I've been doing, I've talked a lot about how time has really taken some of the magic out of these movies, and also the fact that superhero movies are now not a one or two every couple of year thing. Now there's like 5+ a year. Out of all the Phase 1 movies, I think this is the only one that actually got better with age. When I first saw this movie, I thought it was fine. I just thought it was a fun movie, but nothing that really attached me to Captain America. After Winter Soldier, though, I fell complete head over heels in love with Captain America. And coming back to this movie with that love and understanding of the character, it really made this movie a much better experience. It's the rare and I think only occasion where a sequel retroactively makes its predecessor a better movie. Now that Captain America has had his fully formed trilogy, and that we've seen him outside of that trilogy in 3 other movies, we have a full arc that we can look at. Obviously, we don't know what Endgame is going to have in store for him, but right now we have a full arc showing Captain America and what he was like in World War II, and what he's like in Infinity War. In this movie, we see Steve Rogers with his starry-eyed idealism at its fullest and its most pure, and the movie itself reflects that. The color palette is a lot brighter, the story is a lot more straightforward and fun, the characters themselves are morally black and white as opposed to later movies where they're going to become a lot grayer. In later Captain America movies, we'll see that idealism challenged. Captain America loses his faith in the system and has to tear down S.H.I.E.L.D. The characters and the stories get a lot more complex. With the development of Steve Rogers as a character and the themes that this movie sets in place, there's a layer added to both Winter Soldier and Civil War that wouldn't be there unless this movie was the way that it is. Speaking of Steve Rogers as a character, this movie really develops and studies him in a way that no other Marvel movie has really been able to do with their hero. And obviously there are going to be other Captain America movies that dive deeper, and there's some great character work across the MCU. But I do not think that there's another MCU movie that dives this deep or gives such a clear textbook definition of who its hero is and what they're about. It helps that other MCU movies are about someone becoming a better person throughout the course of their story, where Captain America is about someone staying the same when everything else around them is changing. Most of the development done with Steve Rogers is done through his interactions with Dr. Erskine, who is played by Stanley Tucci, who gives quite possibly one of the top 5 best performances in the entirety of the MCU. The first 40 minutes of this movie are designed to teach us who Steve Rogers is, and it ends with a promise. The night before Steve has his procedure, Dr. Erskine asks him to make a promise that he will remain who he is. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man. That promise is at the heart of who Captain America is throughout this entire franchise. And I'm going to talk more about how that's challenged in Winter Soldier and Civil War. But right now, I think it's important that we remember that promise when we talk about Captain America, especially this movie. The whole point of this movie is to show the good man that Steve Rogers is, and that he can't change, or he wouldn't be the hero that he is. Whether it's him lying on his enlistment form so he can serve in the army, him falling on the dummy grenade, him saving the soldiers trapped at the Hydra base, or him saying, I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from. This is the character study of a good man who stays good despite gaining incredible power, and the other films are going to challenge him to stay that way. He is definitively Captain America. He pulls off the idealism, the sense of duty, the empathy that the character has, the humanity, the humility, and most importantly, he excels at being the good man that Dr. Erskine talks about. In terms of pure commitment and sincerity, Chris Evans' performance is honestly right up there with Christopher Reeve as Superman. It's that good. Now, outside of the intro and the time that is spent developing Steve Rogers, the movie is pretty well done. The atmosphere that Joe Johnston builds is really fun and classical, and he uses the period to his advantage and gives the movie a very unique look and feel. The action is very well done, especially the scene where we see Steve first use his powers. He's clumsy and not very sure how to use his newfound strength just yet, and seeing that develop is really cool. This is probably one of the better supporting casts out of any other Marvel movie. The Howling Commandos is a very fun group with a lot of character actors that I always enjoy seeing pop up in bigger stuff. Dominic Cooper is a good Howard Stark, and Sebastian Stan does a good job as Bucky, even though he doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie, but of course we all know that he's going to be given a lot more to do in later movies. Tommy Lee Jones is grumpy and a curmudgeon like he always is, and he's great at doing that. I talked earlier about how great Stanley Tucci is in this movie, and he really is that great. He delivers a lot of the wisdom and emotion that the film has to offer, and he's studying Steve in the same way that we are. His belief in Steve is also truly heartwarming, and makes us believe that this scrawny kid from Brooklyn is going to eventually be Captain America. Hayley Atwell as Peggy Carter is great. She's so full of charm and wit, and when she's able to be the strong, takes-no-nonsense drill sergeant, she commands the screen. The relationship between her and Steve is really well done. It actually operates a lot like the relationship between Steve and the audience. We don't think too much of him, but eventually his character shines through and we love him for it. And so does Peggy. And you have to bring up the continuing tragedy of the MCU that is Peggy and Steve's relationship. It started here, and there's a reason I'm so heartbroken when they use her in Winter Soldier and Civil War, and it's because of what's done with their relationship in this movie. The Red Skull, I would say, is one of the better villains out of Phase 1 of the MCU. Hugo Weaving does a good job, but unfortunately it still suffers from the fact that it's just not very interesting when you pit a hero against the exact evil version of themselves. Overall, Captain America the First Avenger is one of the stronger entries out of Phase 1 of the MCU. Honestly, with how well it's aged over the years, it might even be better than Iron Man, or at least gives Iron Man a run for its money. It's, for my money, the best origin story that the MCU has put out. It has some of the best character moments in the entirety of the MCU, and it has some of the best performances in the MCU. I give Captain America the First Avenger a 5 out of 5. It really does a great justice to the character and sets up an incredible base for Winter Soldier and Civil War to really put this character and his ideals through the ringer. So how do you guys feel about Captain America the First Avenger? Has it gotten better for you over the years, or is it still maybe one of the lesser entries of Phase 1? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like it and share it. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on my Twitter and Instagram accounts, which I will have the links for down in the description. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.